Hey, how you doing today? It's Mary Bicknell, and today what we're going to be talking about is how to convey the value of your offer. And I'm doing something new here. I just want to tell you, I'm sharing this across a couple platforms. And actually, I'll do that, John. I'm sharing this across a couple platforms. So here we go. Let's make sure that this works. Share to a group. Here's my group. Ooh, don't you love technology? So today is one of those, here we go. So today is one of those topics that can be a little bit challenging. I know, because you have something amazing that you want to offer. And sometimes we get stuck. Like, how is it that I can tell everybody how great I am without telling everybody how great I am? Right? Make sense? And so why that feels a little challenging is because, let's double check the sound. Hey, if you can hear me, I want you to give me a thumbs up. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. Why that can be a little bit of a challenge are a couple reasons, and they have to do with how we're socialized. A lot of them are how we're socialized, and then sometimes we just, frankly, we have zero idea how to articulate in an easy way what we're offering. Make sense? So I've got my notes handy. And I want to have you just kind of get settled in, so that we're going to allow for a little bit of deep dive today and allow you to really look at yourself and see maybe something new. You know, the goal here is that you're going to find out something new about yourself and a new way to talk. I'm going to give you very specific, concrete, how to say what you do in a way that's short and succinct. I will definitely do that. I will help you figure out a few of the actual things that you offer and be able to say it succinctly. But first, I think the most important thing to concentrate on and recognize is, let me make sure my mic's working here, good, is recognizing that it's a lot of this has to do with mindset. A lot of this has to do with you recognizing, oh good, okay, recognizing that some of this is just the way you're thinking. Let me give you a perfect example. Yesterday, I took my daughter River, and we went, and she has to go to puppy training with the dog who is sitting right here. So her friend my point with sharing this, getting ready to share this as an example, is this is so universal about not wanting to brag on ourselves. So anyhow, this girl, she just competed and was able to break some records. And I was like, yeah, break some records, woohoo. And her mom showed up, and I was like, hey, she just told me about breaking these records. And her mom said, and this is a good friend, she shouldn't be saying that. And I thought, it's okay. She can share. But the point with my friend, and it's all of us, right? We don't want to sound like we're bragging. We don't want to sound like, our shit doesn't stink, that we are the thing. I totally get that. And so how is it that we can articulate that in a way that we don't sound like we're bragging, but we can recognize the truth of who we are, the truth of what we have to offer that is different than anybody else on earth. I mean, that's what it is, right? And I'm getting ready to add a bunch of people in here who are wanting to go into our group because we're doing this training. Let me put them in here real quick because I know they don't want to miss out. And thanks for being patient. Okay, here we go. So there's like 15 people who are wanting to jump in here right now, which is great. All right, so back to you. Ready? How is it that, I want you to think about right now, how is it that you were brought up? How is it that you were socialized to be that girl, that woman who said, oh my God, I'm great, as opposed to, oh my God, I'm not allowed to talk about how great I am. I want you to think about that for a minute. I want you to reflect back right now in this moment to a time in your life that you felt really good about who you are and somebody smashed it. Somebody was just like, ugh, no, Mary. No, all of you that are watching. And thank you for watching the replay too. Make sure that if you watch the replay, you put something in there. I will get back to every single one of you. And the truth of the matter is that seed that was planted about you not sharing your greatness, your amazingness, is the very thing that is rippling effect all these years later. All these years later, you're bringing that forward. So I want you right now to write down, not in the, you don't have to put it in the feed, but write down on your notes the moment, if you can remember. And if you can't remember right now, that's fine. This is an exercise for you to go back to. I want to share this with you. Today I was reading in, maybe some of you have read Gay Hendricks before, and The Big Leap. If you haven't read that, that's one of those books to pick up, keep by your bedside, flip through it, but also A Year of Conscious Living. And I don't go by the dates. I just kind of flip through and just what needs to come forward. So I want to share this with you today as we move forward in giving you very concrete steps on how to convey your offer. But the biggest disease today is not leprosy or tuberculosis, but rather the feeling of being unwanted. And this was Mother Teresa. And isn't that how we feel sometimes when we're marketing and, oh my gosh, people aren't buying? So if people aren't buying, and we don't want to get into being a copycat in a sea of Me Too, in a sea of other people who are making the same offer, there's a couple things here. Number one is I'm going to challenge you to get offline sometime. I'm going to challenge you to step away from your computer, back away from your computer. One of the things I like to teach clients is there's 5 different ways to market your product. And each one of these ways, you have to convey the value of what you do. It's differently. Now, granted, you have one thing that you do, and there's probably a million things that you do, but we want to focus on one thing that you do and that you do well. But, step away from the computer sometime or turn your feed off. Let me make a note here. There's some app where you can actually turn your feed off and then just go in and work your, get back to anybody who's tagged you or made a post or have that communication go on without seeing the feed. Because sometimes it's easy to want to compare. But I promise you the biggest problem that you are having with conveying the value of your service is you're looking at Sally, you're looking at Sue, you're looking at her, you're looking at everybody instead of yourself. You're looking at everybody instead of yourself. And because it does seem scary to just show up in your own stuff. But I promise you that when you show up like you, and I mean like all out, you got to be all out, especially online. You have to just be all out so that you stand out. If you're vanilla, forget it. You're fucking lost. Forget it. Turn this computer off right now. You have to be all in about yourself. This is what I want you to understand more than anything else today, is that if you don't show up as you, and then you do get a new client, a new customer, and you show up as the real, quote, the real you while you're working together, it's a disconnect. And actually, I want you to recognize that it's almost like you fraudulently hooked them with this other persona. So my point here is like what I'm talking about today, this is how I show up with clients. This is how I am in person. I'm this emphatic sometimes in person, especially about this topic. So get away from the Me Too. Now, saying that, I want to encourage you to do these 3 things. Number 1 To purge this from your system is go ahead and go on and look around. Be a looky-loo. Be a real looky-loo and be inspired maybe by how people are doing things. If you see a successful person in your same industry, be inspired by their methodology. If they're already at this higher level, guess what? They've worked through a lot of the kinks to get there. So be inspired by their copy. Be inspired how they show up. Be inspired, not a copycat, because your words are your words. You and I could have the same exact written script, right? I could just be like, here you go. Here's your written script. Let's both say it. And the way we say it, if they're my words and I tell you to say them, even though I do share scripts with you, if they're my words completely and you use them, it's not going to work. But be inspired. They kind of call that like, and I've taught on this before where it's like how to legally steal from your competitor, right? It's just about being inspired, number one. So purge that out of your damn system and then turn off your feed. Number two is, look at other industries. Look at other industries and be aware of how they market. So for example, one of the trainings I did one time was I had a bunch of magazines, and actually I was just talking to a friend about magazines yesterday and looking this. But anyhow, looking at magazines, looking at how they title things. Sometimes we get so caught up in our own head and our own thinking, we can't see the simplicity of conveying our offer. Right? So let me give you a couple examples. You might see on Shape magazine, it says something like lose 10 pounds in 10 days or whatever, right? A relationship magazine might say something like, the 3 words to say to get your lover to have sex every single day. Or what about some meditative magazine? Maybe some magazine you never read, right? Where it's just like how to feel centered and whatever, right? So the point is kind of like how they structure things. How can you kind of use that to plug and play your product? And finally so these 3 things. One is, go online, look around, be inspired, look at other things, and listen, right? Listen to some different podcasts, listen to different, and you probably already do these things, but listen from the perspective of how are they doing it, not from, oh my God, she has, this podcast and there's 10,000 people or whatever. Okay? Because I know that feeling of when somebody's not buying from you, you feel unwanted. And that is a recipe for desperation. That's a recipe for frustration. That's a recipe for working too hard. And when I say working too hard, I don't mean that you're just sitting around, right? I don't mean like the opposite extreme where you're just sitting around just like, willing things to happen. I'm talking about when you learn how to get things done in a systematized way. It makes everything easy. Repeat after me. Systems are sexy. Ready? Systems are sexy. So the point here is that most of the time what happens is you have this blind spot. We talk about this before, different blind spots. So the number one blind spot that I have found with women is their fear of judgment. I want you to think right now, if you have something if you feel like I know how to convey what I do, but I'm afraid to say it. I'm afraid to say, I can help you make $1 million. I'm afraid to say, I can help you lose 20 pounds. I'm afraid to say, my widget will cure this. Or the system that I can teach you will do this. Maybe you're afraid to say that. Maybe you think, well, I can't guarantee that they're going to do it. I can't guarantee. All of this stuff starts happening, right? Or if I say it like, hey, I know I can teach you how to have a big, bold life in business. I know. I don't have a problem saying that. I can help you create a business that's going to teach you how to have all the money that you could ever want to buy all the time freedom that you totally crave. I know that. But did it take some time? Sure. It took some practice, implementation, trial and error. And I bet you've done the same thing. So the number one blind spot is the fear of judgment, that if you make a claim, are you going to be able to back it up? So then it becomes wishy-washy. Well, what's the real value? I can't necessarily claim I can do this. I can't necessarily for sure say so. So I want you in this moment right now, here's another exercise for you, is I want you to think about if you really said what you want to say about your offer and what you do with people or for people or offer people, what comes up? Whose voice comes up? Is it your own sense of self-doubt? Is it your sister that's like, who do you think you are? That's going to make a big business. Who is that? What comes up for you? And write that down so you can analyze logically, remove the emotion, analyze this logically to decide whether or not, that shit is real or not. That's your job today. Friday, May 4th. Look at your blind spots. So the next thing I want you to look at is, and this is where you're going to start just writing this stuff down, owning who you are and what you are capable of. Owning who you are and what you're capable of. So for example, I want you to really think about, and I'm looking at my notes here too, right? So we talked already about how we are not encouraged as women. We are not encouraged as women to go for it. We are not encouraged as women to say, this is what I can do. We're not encouraged as women to share our successes, share the successes of our clients. We're not encouraged to show up in that posture. And I'm telling you, you have to do that. You must do that. You must get comfortable sharing your successes, sharing your system, sharing what you do. So for example, when I work with clients and I teach them how to have a big, bold life in biz, it's a 5-step process of breakthroughs. The first thing is how to have a big dream breakthrough, because probably most of you have no freaking clue what you really want. I know we all think we do, but we don't necessarily write it down, put a number. How much is this going to cost? This $2 million house? What's the more? We don't do that. Have a big dream breakthrough. Next is looking at the blind spots. What the hell is in your way? My background as a therapist, and of course I'm a certified transformational coach as well. I bring this to the table and look at what is holding you back? Because that's why you're here listening, because something's holding you back. Next is the money mindset breakthrough. Look, we can come up with the best plan. I promise you. We can come up with the best plan, but if we, let me look at this. Sorry about that. If we come up with the best plan and your money mindset is in the way, forget it. There is no getting around that as a reality as far as causing issues with you. I promise you, it's not going to work. Let me check this, feed real quick. Let me type this in right here. Look below. There we go. Great. Sorry about that. That was a little, some of that technology stuff, right? Let me put in here. Okay, so back to you. The very next step is looking at, money, product. What is the offer that you have? What is the offer that you have? And then of course your clients. So let's get to that. Ready? I'm getting ready to give you an exact thing to say, but let me get you to write some stuff down. What are your credentials? Right? What is it that you bring to the table as far as education, certification? What have you studied? I want you to write down your knowledge. Part of saying credentials is really, what is the knowledge that you have? Then I want you to write down your before and after story. In other words, the thing that you're offering, it came from somewhere. What was the reason that you started your business? Right? Why did you start your business? Next, I want you to look at what's your experience? How much experience have you had doing this? Right? What is that experience? Finally, I want you to look at what are some of the successes that you've had with other people, right? Do you have some testimonials? Do you have results? What has happened there? When you start writing this down, this is helping you build the confidence to learn how to convey the value And we're going to get into the next piece is understanding what it is that your client really wants. See, you don't really have to come up with what the value is when you understand what your ideal client really wants. Let me say that again so you really hear me. You do not have to come up with all of the copy, all of the value when you understand what your ideal client wants. Because guess what? They're going to give you the words. They're going to tell you what they want. Let me give you an example, and we'll just use weight loss because that's just such a common, easy thing right across the board for all women. So if somebody's saying, I have no energy, I am exhausted, I feel fat, I don't feel sexy, etc. So if you help them feel fantastic, feel sexy, feel amazing, feel vibrant, feel alive. And then you look at the system of what you do in your service or offer. That's the value. So the value comes in as what would life be like if you could jump out of bed every morning, not yell at your kids, and go all day feeling like a rock star. What's the value of that? They're going to tell you the value of that is, I'm going to feel relieved. I'm going to feel better. I'm going to feel more productive. I'm probably going to sell more. I'm going to have a better business, or I'm going to be able to volunteer more, or I'm not going to yell at my kid. I'm going to have sex more often. Like that value is so huge to them. So it's learning to understand what the language of that person is. What's the language? Do you know? So let me give you an example with my business. My clients come to me because they're tired, they're frustrated, they're overwhelmed with their business. They have a level of success, but they're tired. They're missing out on life and they want more. They might be making a lot of money, but they want to have more free time. So after a while, the money is irrelevant, right? So here we go. We're going to write this down. Ready? I help blank, insert your ideal client. Right? I help women lose 10 pounds, ready? So they can finally, right? So it might be a feeling word, so they can finally feel amazing and have the energy that they want. I help business owners create a big, bold life in biz so that they can finally have all the money they want to do whatever the hell they want to, whenever the hell they want, unapologetically. By giving them a 3-part system. One is looking at your plan, one is looking at your mindset, one is looking at a plan, and one is looking at the strategy and systems. This is the key part that I know you need as far as creating the value. How are you different? Ready? I help women lose 10 pounds so that they can finally feel sexy and energized by giving them a very specific system that ABC, whatever that system is. I'm different than other people in my industry because ready? I'm different from other people in my industry because So for me, I would say I'm different from other people in the business consulting industry because I bring a history of being a therapist, being a coach, being a salesperson, along with my expertise as far as strategy. I bring a different look at your business. I can analyze your business in a way that most people can't. What if you said that? I can help you lose weight in a way that most people can't. This is my experience, ABCD. What would that look like for you? How would that show up? To help you further, I want you today to write down 20 ways that you feel like you're different than anybody else. And I know that's hard, right? Because look at me. Okay, so I'm a business consultant, super successful. I have all my years of experience as a therapist. I'm a certified transformational coach. My expertise is I can take in reams of information and distill it. And, I think, well, God, maybe other people can do some of that too. But the thing is to remember is that I do things differently. I say things differently than anybody else. So back to saying the same script. If you and I were on stage, right? Because I'm a speaker and I teach my clients how to give live talks that convert, One of my talks has gotten up to $143,000 so far. My very first talk has led to that kind of business. When you recognize that the way that you say things is different than anybody else, and that right now in this moment, people are waiting for you, someone just like you, to share your magic with, it's a game changer. 20 ways that you can help. And really, I'd love for you to go for 100 different ways. So it looks like this. How are you different? Well, what are your credentials? What are your background? What are some testimonials? What are some tools that you use? Are you funny? Are you caring? Are you quick? Or are you, a soft personality? Are you somebody who knows how to do online and offline? Like, write down everything about yourself so that you can start seeing how good you are. And then this is the question that I want you to answer. Ready? Why should I buy from you? Why? And if your answer is, well, I don't know, I want you to tell me, Mary, what the value of my offer is. This is where knowing your ideal client, asking them. Number 2, understanding what's holding you back. Number 3 is being able to articulate what you're bringing to the table and owning that. So then why would people want to buy from you? Why? I want you to write an answer. And then based on that answer, I want you to say, well, why is that good enough? Why is that good enough? Why is that okay? Why? I want you to do this exercise, 5 whys. So for me, if I say, well, why would anybody want to be a client of Mary Bicknell and have a big, bold life in biz? What makes me different? Why buy from me? Well, number 1 is that I, bring a history of being a therapist to the table. And why is that important? Is because I can see a lot of times what's holding people back quickly. Well, why is that important? Because most people come to me, my clients come to me because they want to get out of this working so hard mode and they want more free time. Well, why is that important? Because people are feeling like they're missing out on life and it's crushing, and I'm driven to help people have a more full life. Why? Because, and when you get to start doing this work, it's like you start recognizing, like, I'm feeling like I could just start crying, right? Why do I do this? Because life is so short and so precious. And I want every single woman that I'm in touch with to understand the potential that she has is so great. And if I keep digging deeper, right, the why. Why is that important, Mary? Why is that important, Mary? Asking myself, like you're going to ask yourself. It's important because this is my life work. It's important because I didn't have that as a role model. It's important. I could just list those out. So going on and on and on. So this is Mary Bicknell. I want you to share with me in a private message, or you can share when you watch the replay. These are some of the ways to create the value of your offer by really getting in touch with who you are, how you're different, using the language of your client. The next time we'll talk about how to put a price tag on your offer. The value is everything that you're bringing to the table. The value is you and your system and your how-to. That's value based on what your ideal client wants. The next piece of the puzzle is like, how the hell do you price that, right? How do you price that? So this is Mary Bicknell. Have a fantastic day, and I will see you next time. Bye. Oh, leave a comment. And you know what? Email me, mary@marybicknell.com. And share with me the value of what you have to offer. And I'll give you feedback. I'll give you personal feedback. Talk to you soon.